I never thought I would find myself in this position, but here I am, typing out the story of my life as I watch it implode in front of me. My name is Mark, and I've been married to my wife, Jessica, for 5 years. We had a great relationship, or at least I thought we did. We met in college, fell in love, and eventually tied the knot. We were that couple everyone envied, always laughing, always taking cheesy photos together. But like most fairy tales, it seems there was a darker side to our story. We decided to start a family a couple of years ago, but things didn't go as planned. After months of trying, we found ourselves facing infertility issues. The emotional roller coaster was exhausting, and the stress took a toll on both of us. It was during this time that I started noticing subtle changes in Jessica's behavior. At first, it was just small things: her late-night phone calls, her sudden need for privacy, and a growing distance between us. I brushed them off as stress-related. After all, we were both going through a tough time. Then came the appointments with Dr. Harris, the fertility specialist. We both hoped would help us. Dr. Harris was charming and reassuring, always wearing that confident smile. I could see Jessica light up whenever she talked about her visits. At first, I thought it was just relief at having someone who understood our struggles, but the more I saw it, the more it began to gnaw at me. One fateful evening, everything changed. I was at a bar with some friends, trying to distract myself from the reality of our situation, when I ran into Sarah, an acquaintance from the fertility support group Jessica and I attended. She was buzzing with excitement, and I thought maybe she had good news about her own journey. Instead, she dropped a bombshell that shattered my world. "I saw Jessica with Dr. Harris at the Hotel Crest last week," she said casually, like she was talking about the weather. I felt my heart drop to the pit of my stomach. The words echoed in my mind, and I tried to rationalize it. Maybe it was a professional meeting. Perhaps it was a consultation about our case. But deep down, I knew something felt wrong. When I got home that night, Jessica was already in bed, scrolling through her phone. Her face lit up when I walked in, as though nothing had happened. I wanted to confront her right there, but I held back. I needed to gather my thoughts and, more importantly, gather evidence. Over the next few days, I started putting the pieces together. I noticed her phone was always buzzing, and she'd often leave the room to answer calls. I even checked our shared calendar and saw that she'd added several appointments that were not with the fertility clinic. My gut told me something was off, and I couldn't shake the feeling of betrayal that was building inside me. The tipping point came one Saturday afternoon. I was doing some chores when I noticed her phone sitting on the counter, screen lit up. A message popped up from an unknown number: "Can't wait to see you again. Last week was incredible." My hands shook as I read it. It was enough proof for me to confront her. I felt a mix of anger, despair, and a burning desire for answers. I wasn't going to let this slide. That evening, I decided to confront Jessica. I needed to know the truth, no matter how much it hurt. I was terrified and heartbroken, but I couldn't let fear keep me from confronting the woman I thought I knew. The moment I brought it up, her reaction was immediate. The air grew thick with tension, and I could see the panic flash across her face. "Mark, what are you talking about? You're being paranoid," she said defensively, her voice shaking. But I wouldn't let her dismiss me. I laid everything out: the late nights, the secretive behavior, the message on her phone. I could see her attempting to piece together a response as I spoke. This was just the beginning of a confrontation that would change everything for us. I braced myself for the lies, the excuses, the manipulations. Jessica was good at those, and I knew it wouldn't take long before she twisted the truth into something unrecognizable. But I was ready. I needed to hear her say it. It was at that moment I realized just how deep this betrayal cut. My heart raced as the truth hung in the air, waiting to be revealed. I was about to uncover a reality I never wanted to see. As I stood in the living room, the confrontation escalated quickly. Jessica's initial shock morphed into anger as I laid out my case. "Mark, you're being ridiculous," she snapped, but I could see the cracks in her facade. "How could you even think that? We've been through so much together." I was firm, refusing to back down. "You think I don't see the signs, the late-night calls, the secret meetings? I know what I heard, Jess. I know what I saw." My voice trembled with a mixture of rage and anguish. Each accusation felt like a punch to the gut, and I could sense her panic rising. I needed her to be honest, to admit the truth I feared was lurking just beneath the surface. Her defensive posture began to soften, and I could see the wheels turning in her mind. Okay, I've been distant, but it's because of the stress. We've been trying for so long, and it's just so hard. She tried to deflect, but the guilt was palpable. I wasn't buying it. The truth was there, lurking in the shadows of her denial. Just tell me, I snapped, my patience wearing thin. Are you cheating on me? I felt the weight of my own question, and I braced myself for the answer I didn't want to hear. She hesitated, a flicker of something, fear, maybe shame, crossing her face. No, of course not. But the way she said it was almost robotic, as if she were reciting a script. My instincts screamed at me that something was off. I pressed further, determined to break through her defenses. Then explain the messages, Jess. Explain why you were at that hotel with Dr. Harris. That name hung in the air like a noose. It was like watching a dam break. The walls Jessica had built around her emotions crumbled, and for a brief moment I saw something real in her eyes: guilt. Fine, I was there, she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. It wasn't what you think, I swear. I felt my stomach twist. What do you mean it wasn't what I think? You were with him. You had sex with the guy treating us for infertility. My heart raced as the weight of her admission sunk in. My mind spun, frantically trying to make sense of the betrayal. How could she do this to us, to our dreams of starting a family? Jessica's face contorted with a mix of defiance and vulnerability. I didn't mean for it to happen. He was just there for me. I felt so alone, Mark. You were so wrapped up in our situation that I didn't know how to reach you anymore. Her words were a desperate attempt to justify her actions, and I could hear the tears in her voice. But I was too far gone in my own anguish to feel sympathy. So, you found comfort in another man's arms. I shot back, the bitterness lacing my words. You couldn't come to me, your husband, and talk about it. You had to go behind my back. I was furious, but more than that, I was devastated. Each word felt like a knife stabbing deeper into a wound I never thought would open. The room was thick with tension as Jessica's tears finally began to fall. I'm sorry, Mark. I messed up. I thought I could make it work without hurting you. I didn't know how to handle it all. Her voice cracked, and I felt a flicker of the love I once had for her battling against the betrayal that suffocated it. My heart ached as I listened to her sob. I wanted to reach out, to comfort her, to tell her everything would be okay. But how could I? The thought of her lying in another man's arms was too much to bear. I felt my world shrinking around me, the love and trust we built together crumbling like dust. With every revelation, every half-hearted excuse she offered, I felt the ground beneath me shift. My mind whirled, unable to compute how we had gone from a couple dreaming of a family to a woman who betrayed that dream with someone sworn to help us. I wanted to scream, to lash out, but the weight of the situation left me feeling hollow and exhausted. As I sat there, trying to reconcile the woman I loved with the reality of who she had become, I felt a flood of emotions wash over me. Anger, sadness, disappointment. They all surged through me, suffocating and overwhelming. I realized I had to make a decision, one that would shape the rest of my life. Jessica's pleas for forgiveness echoed in the room, but I could hear them over the roar of my own emotions. Could I ever forgive her? Could I even trust her again? My heart told me one thing while my mind told me another, and I felt paralyzed by the gravity of what had just been revealed. The confrontation had peeled back the layers of our relationship, exposing raw wounds that would never heal the same way again. I knew I was standing at a crossroads, and the next steps I took would determine if I could ever move forward, whether it was with her or without her. But for now, all I felt was the heart-wrenching realization that everything I thought I knew was gone. The aftermath of that confrontation left me reeling. I felt like I was floating in a void, a world turned upside down where nothing made sense anymore. Jessica sat across from me, tears streaming down her face, her pitiful apologies filling the air. But it all felt hollow, like a poorly constructed facade hiding the truth I now knew. I was supposed to feel anger, heartbreak, despair. All of it I did, but I was also overwhelmed by a numbness that left me questioning everything. I needed space. To think, to breathe. I stood up, breaking the heavy silence that had settled over us. I need some time, I said, my voice steady despite the chaos inside. I couldn't look her in the eyes. I was afraid of what I might see. I can't do this right now. Jessica reached out, her hand trembling as she tried to grasp mine. Mark, please don't leave. We can work through this. I love you. Her voice cracked on the last word, desperation etched into her features. But love felt so distant now, like a faded memory, a cruel joke played on me. I shook my head and walked away, retreating to the bedroom we once shared, now a prison filled with ghosts of a happier time. I needed to think, to process the betrayal, to figure out what I wanted my next steps to be. Did I want to salvage our marriage, or was it too late? Lying in bed, I stared at the ceiling, my mind racing with the memories of our life together. I thought about our wedding day, the laughter, the dreams we had for a family, and how quickly it all unraveled. I recalled the late-night talks about our hopes for children, the excitement of picking out baby names, and now that dream lay shattered at my feet. It hurt to think that a man tasked with helping us achieve that dream had instead uprooted it entirely. I eventually fell into an uneasy sleep, but the nightmares came, filled with images of Jessica entwined with Dr. Harris, their laughter echoing in my ears. I woke up in a sweat, heart racing as I fought to shake off the lingering images. I needed answers. I needed to know if this was just a momentary lapse or if it was something deeper, something that had been building in the shadows. The next day, I decided to do something I had avoided until now. I called Sarah, the acquaintance from the support group, the one who had initially dropped the bomb about Jessica's affair. I needed to know more, I needed clarity. When she answered, her voice was warm and concerned. Mark, I was hopping you call. I can't believe what happened. I'm so sorry. I need you to tell me everything you know about Jessica and Dr. Harris. I said, doing my best to keep my voice steady. I didn't want to sound desperate, but I was hanging on by a thread. She hesitated for a moment before speaking. I saw them together a few times, going in and out of the hotel. I thought it was suspicious, but I didn't want to jump to conclusions. I didn't know how to tell you. Her voice trailed off, and I could hear the regret in her tone. I wish I had said something sooner. Do you know if it's been going on for long? I pressed, my stomach twisting at the thought. I don't know for sure, but it looked serious. They seemed really comfortable together, she replied, and with each word the reality of my nightmare deepened. I thanked her for the information and hung up, feeling like I was drowning. It wasn't just a one-time mistake. It was an affair, a full-blown betrayal that had likely been going on for months. I was furious, but more than that, I felt utterly defeated. The woman I loved had chosen someone else over me, over our dreams, and it tore at my heart. A few days passed in a blur. Jessica tried to reach out, sending texts filled with remorse and pleas for forgiveness, but I couldn't bring myself to respond. I felt more hurt than angry, and the thought of having that conversation made me physically ill. I needed to figure out who I was without her, what I wanted moving forward, all the while feeling like I was standing on a precipice, unable to take that leap into the unknown. Eventually, I found myself at a local park, sitting on a bench and watching the world go by. Couples walked hand in hand, families laughed and played, and I felt like an outsider looking in. I realized I needed to take stock of my life. I couldn't keep living in this limbo of betrayal and anguish. I had to decide what I wanted, and I had to be honest with myself. In that moment of clarity, I understood that I could no longer be defined by Jessica's choices. I had to reclaim my own identity. I thought about the future I had always wanted, with kids and family gatherings, but now I needed to consider a new future, one without the woman I had trusted with everything. I sat there for hours contemplating my next steps. Did I want to try and work things out with Jessica? Did I even want her back? Or was it time to cut my losses and move on? The questions swirled in my mind, but one thing was clear. I had to confront Jessica again. I had to hear her side one last time, and then I needed to make my decision. As I left the park, I felt a sense of determination settle over me. I was going to take control of my life, no matter how painful that process might be. I would not let this betrayal define me. I would find a way to heal, to move forward, and ultimately to reclaim my happiness. After several days of silence, I finally mustered the courage to face Jessica again. I knew I couldn't keep avoiding the inevitable. I had to confront her one last time to get closure, to seek the answers I desperately needed, and to decide where we stood. My heart raced as I drove home, anticipation and anxiety battling for dominance in my mind. When I arrived, the house felt eerily quiet. Jessica was in the living room, her eyes red and puffy from crying. She looked up as I entered, her expression a mix of hope and fear. "Mark," she said softly, her voice trembling, "I'm so glad you came back. I've been waiting for you. I want to talk." I took a deep breath, trying to keep my emotions in check. "We need to have an honest conversation, Jess. No more lies, no more excuses." My voice was steady, but I felt the weight of the moment pressing down on me. I needed to stay strong. She nodded, wiping her tears away with the back of her hand. "I know I hurt you. I never meant to betray you. I was just so lost and overwhelmed. I thought I was going to lose you to our struggles with infertility." Her eyes looked desperate for understanding, but the pain was still fresh. "Did you ever think that you could have talked to me about it?" I shot back, frustration bubbling to the surface. "I was right there, going through the same struggles. Instead, you chose to sleep with the very man who was supposed to help us." Anger surged through me, and I could feel the heat rising in my chest. She flinched at my words, but I pressed on. "This wasn't just a mistake, Jess. This was a conscious choice. You made a decision to turn to him instead of me. Why? What did he offer you that I could?" "Mark, it wasn't just about him," she pleaded, her voice rising. "Yes, I found comfort in his attention, but it was about feeling wanted. I felt like I was losing you, and he made me feel alive again, even if it was wrong. I didn't know how to handle everything we were going through. I thought it was just a fling, something that would make me forget the pain." Her words were a gut punch, each one striking deeply into the wounds of my betrayal. "So, you thought cheating would fix things?" I asked incredulously, struggling to process what she was saying. "You thought lying and betraying me would somehow bring us closer together. I thought it would help me cope. I thought I could separate my feelings for you and the temporary relief he offered," she said, desperately trying to explain. "But it did work. I realized too late how much I love you." The way she spoke felt rehearsed, almost too calculated for someone who had just confessed an affair. I couldn't shake the feeling that she was trying to manipulate my feelings, to get me to forgive her without really understanding the depth of her betrayal. "Love. You threw that away the moment you decided to lay with someone else. You don't get to say you love me and then cheat on me." Silence fell between us, thick and suffocating. I could see the turmoil on her face as she struggled to find the right words, but nothing could excuse what she had done. I could feel my heart breaking anew, and I knew I had to take control of the situation. "Look, I need to make a decision," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. "I can't keep living in this limbo. We either try to rebuild what we had, or I walk away for good." Jessica's eyes widened, panic flooding her features. "You can't mean that. We can fix this. I'll do anything. I'll go to therapy. I'll show you how committed I am. Please do." "Leave me?" The desperation in her voice tugged at a part of me that still wanted to believe in her and us, but I had to think clearly. "Jessica, it's not just about therapy. It's about trust, and right now I don't trust you. You broke that bond, and it doesn't just magically come back because you say you're sorry." I stood firm, feeling more resolute with each word. "I know I messed up, but I'm willing to fight for us," she pleaded, her voice cracking. "I want to show you how much you mean to me. I'll cut off all contact with Dr. Harris. I'll do whatever it takes to prove myself to you." I shook my head, unsure of whether I could believe her words. "How can I be sure this isn't just another lie? How do I know you won't just go back to him when things get tough again?" Jessica fell silent, tears spilling down her cheeks as the weight of our situation settled between us. I watched her, my heart aching with conflicting emotions. I wanted to believe her, to hope that our love was strong enough to survive this. But the reality was that she had shattered my trust. "I need time to think about this," I finally said, forcing myself to remain calm despite the storm inside me. "I don't want to make any rash decisions, but I can't promise anything right now." The look in her eyes changed from desperation to despair, and I felt a pang of guilt for the pain I was causing her. But I knew I needed to prioritize my own well-being. I had to protect my heart. It was the only way I could begin to heal from this betrayal. As I walked away from the conversation, I felt a mix of relief and sadness. I had confronted the truth, but the reality of our situation weighed heavily on my heart. I knew it wouldn't be easy to move forward, But I also realized that I had to prioritize myself for once. I couldn't allow her actions to dictate my happiness any longer. Over the next few days, I took time to reflect on everything that had happened. I spent time with friends, reconnected with hobbies, and focused on rediscovering myself outside of my relationship with Jessica. I realized that I was still a person worth loving, even if my world felt shattered. I thought back to the dreams I had, the family we had wanted, and the love we had shared. But I also recognized that sometimes, love wasn't enough to mend broken trust. I had to decide if I could move past this betrayal or if I needed to walk away for good. Time was a precious commodity, and I knew I had to be patient with myself as I navigated these difficult emotions. The road ahead was uncertain, but I was determined to reclaim my happiness, whether that meant rebuilding my marriage or starting anew. As the days turned into weeks, I found myself entrenched in a battle with my own emotions. The initial shock and anger had shifted into a deep-seated sadness, mingling with moments of clarity where I could clearly see the future I wanted. I kept replaying the conversation with Jessica in my mind. The sincerity in her voice, the tears in her eyes, those were real, but so was the betrayal that had cut me to my core. After a few days of contemplation, I picked up the phone and called Sarah again. I needed to talk to someone who was outside the chaos, someone who could offer perspective. "Hey, it's Mark," I said when she answered. "Can we meet up? I really need to talk." We agreed to meet at the same park where I had spent time reflecting in the days after the confrontation. Sitting across from Sarah, I felt a wave of relief wash over me. She was supportive but also offered a fresh viewpoint, something I desperately needed. "I can't believe what you're going through," she started, her expression sympathetic. "I know it's hard, but you have to think about what you want. Do you really see a future with Jessica after what she did?" I shook my head, feeling the knot in my stomach tight. That's the problem. Part of me wants to forgive her, but I can't shake the feeling that it could happen again. Trust is everything in a marriage, and she shattered that. Sarah nodded thoughtfully. "It's okay to feel conflicted. Many people would have a hard time trusting again after infidelity, and you have every right to be cautious. Just remember, it's about your happiness too. You don't owe her anything." Words resonated with me. I realized I had been so focused on Jessica's feelings that I had neglected my own. "I want to believe that we can work through this, but I also know that I need to put myself first for once," I admitted. "Exactly. You deserve to feel secure and loved. If you can't have that with her right now, maybe it's worth considering if separation is what you need," she suggested, her tone kind but firm. I thanked her for the conversation, knowing I'd needed that clarity. I walked home feeling lighter, but I still had a heavy decision to make. Could I truly forgive Jessica? Was there a path forward for us, or would I be better off alone? That night, I decided to write down my feelings. I poured everything onto the page: my love for her, my anger, my pain. I explored what I wanted in life and what I valued most. It was cathartic, providing me with a clearer picture of what I needed for my happiness. By the end of the week, I finally felt ready to confront Jessica again. I had made up my mind. I needed to lay all my cards on the table. I called her and asked her to meet me at a coffee shop close to our home. "It's important," I told her, trying to keep my tone neutral. When I arrived, I spotted her sitting at a corner table, her fingers nervously tapping against her mug. She looked up as I approached, and I could see hope mixed with anxiety in her eyes. "Thank you for meeting me," she said softly. I took a deep breath, steeling myself for the conversation ahead. "I wanted to talk about us, about what happened," I began, my voice steady. "I've done a lot of thinking over the past few weeks, and I need you to hear me out." She nodded, her eyes focused intently on me. "I'm ready. I'll do whatever it takes to regain your trust." "Trust can't be regained overnight, Jessica. It takes time, and right now, I don't know if I can trust you again," I said, feeling the weight of my words. "You shattered our relationship, and it feels like everything we had was built on a lie. I know, and I'm so sorry." She whispered, her voice barely above a whisper. "I didn't mean for it to happen. I was scared, and I let my fears dictate my actions. I promise I will work harder. I'll go to therapy, cut off Dr. Harris, and do everything to prove I'm committed to us." I could sense her desperation, but I had to be firm. I appreciate that you're willing to fight for us, but I also have to think about my own needs. I need space to heal, and I don't think we should live together right now. Her face fell, and I could see the realization wash over her. You want to separate? It's what I think I need to find clarity, I replied, my heart heavy. I'm not saying it's forever, but I can't keep pretending everything is okay when it's not. I need to discover who I am outside of this relationship. Tears welled in her eyes, and for a moment I felt a pang of empathy. Mark, please don't do this. I love you. I can change. I know you love me, but love isn't enough right now. I have to take care of myself first, I said, feeling the sorrow in my heart. As I spoke, I realized this was the hardest decision I had ever made. I still loved Jessica, but I had to prioritize my mental health. I couldn't allow myself to be caught in a cycle of pain. Eventually, our conversation turned into a plan. We agreed on boundaries during our separation. No contact about personal matters, focusing instead on individual healing. I could see the hurt in her eyes, but I also sensed a glimmer of understanding. Walking away from that coffee shop felt surreal. I had made a choice to prioritize myself, and while it was painful, I knew it was necessary. I would miss her, but I had to believe that this was the first step toward healing for both of us, regardless of whether we would find our way back to each other. As I drove home, I felt a sense of clarity wash over me. I had taken control of my life in a way I hadn't thought possible. It wouldn't be easy, but I felt hopeful for the future, ready to embrace whatever came next, whether it was healing and reconciliation or forging a new path entirely. The weeks following my decision to separate from Jessica were a blur of emotions. I oscillated between moments of clarity and periods of deep sadness. I missed her, there was no denying that. I missed our inside jokes, the comfort of her presence, and the dreams we had built together. But those feelings were often overshadowed by the pain of betrayal, a constant reminder of the cracks that ran through our relationship. I focused on my own well-being during this time. I started going to the gym more regularly, pushing myself to find a routine that worked for me. I also reconnected with friends, taking time to enjoy life outside of my marriage. It felt good to laugh and be around people who cared for me. I even started volunteering at a local shelter, finding purpose in helping others. Slowly, I began to rediscover the parts of myself that I had neglected while wrapped up in the whirlwind of our fertility struggles. During this time apart, Jessica kept to her word. She enrolled in therapy to address her issues and began reaching out to support groups for people dealing with infidelity. I received occasional texts from her, updates on her progress, insights she was learning about herself, and her continued apologies. Each message pulled at my heartstrings. Part of me wanted to respond, to encourage her, to understand how she was navigating this new path. But I knew it was essential to maintain the boundaries we had set. One evening, after coming home from volunteering, I received a text from Jessica that stopped me in my tracks. I've been doing a lot of soul-searching and therapy, and it's opened my eyes. I realize now how much I took you for granted. I want to meet and talk about what I've learned. My heart raced at the thought of seeing her again. I had imagined this moment countless times, but I wasn't sure if I was ready. After some deliberation, I responded, suggesting a neutral place, one of our favorite parks where we used to take long walks together. When I arrived, I spotted Jessica sitting on a bench, her eyes scanning the ground as if lost in thought. She looked different, more mature perhaps. As I walked up, she looked up, and for a moment I could see the vulnerability in her eyes. "Thank you for meeting me," she said softly. "Of course," I replied, taking a seat beside her. There was a weight between us, a mixture of relief and trepidation. "How have you been?" "It's been tough, but I think it's been good for me," she admitted, her voice steady. "Therapy has helped me unpack a lot of my fears and insecurities, especially surrounding our infertility journey. I realized I projected my feelings onto you instead of communicating how I truly felt. I let my fear of losing you drive me to make terrible choices." Her honesty was refreshing, but I remained cautious. "That's a big realization," I said, trying to keep my emotions in check. "But it doesn't erase what happened. You still made those choices, Jess." I know, she replied, tears pooling in her eyes, and I'm so sorry. I've spent a lot of time thinking about how I lost sight of what truly mattered us. I can't change the past, but I want to work on becoming a better person. If there's any chance for us, I need you to know I'm committed to rebuilding that trust. I studied her face, searching for any hint of insincerity, but all I found was raw honesty. I appreciate that you're taking responsibility for your actions, I said slowly. But trust isn't built overnight. It's going to take time, and I'm not sure I'm ready to jump back in where we left off. Jessica nodded, her expression pained but understanding. I don't expect you to. I just wanted to show you that I'm taking this seriously. I miss you, Mark. I've realized how much you mean to me. I don't want to lose you again, but I also want to respect your boundaries. Her words hit me hard. I had been grappling with the question of whether I wanted to give our relationship another chance. I still loved her, but the scars of betrayal ran deep. I needed to be sure that we could address the underlying issues that had led to her infidelity. I think we should take things slowly, I suggested cautiously. Maybe we can meet more often, talk about what we've learned, and see how we feel. But I need you to understand that I'm not ready to jump back into a relationship. We need to rebuild our friendship first. Jessica's face lit up with hope, but she nodded in understanding. I can do that. I'll do whatever it takes. As we talked, I felt a sense of cautious optimism begin to blossom. Maybe this was the beginning of something new, something that would allow us both to heal. But I also reminded myself to remain vigilant. I had to protect my heart while also exploring the possibility of rebuilding what had been lost. Over the months that followed, we did take things slow. Our meetings became regular, filled with laughter and deep conversations about our experiences. Jessica shared stories from her therapy sessions, and I opened up about my own struggles. It felt different this time. We were both learning how to communicate openly and honestly, breaking down the walls that had been built around our hearts. While there were moments of doubt and pain, I found myself beginning to trust her again. We explored the idea of rebuilding our relationship, but it was still a fragile thing, an intricate dance of vulnerability and honesty. We both knew it would take time, and I was willing to put in that effort if she was. As I reflected on the journey we had taken, I realized how far I had come. I had learned the importance of self-worth and the necessity of setting boundaries. I had taken the time to rediscover who I was outside of my marriage. While I wasn't sure what the future held for Jessica and me, I felt hopeful. I was no longer a victim of betrayal. I was a survivor, ready to embrace whatever came next. In the end, I found solace in the fact that sometimes love entailed stepping back to create space for growth and healing. Whether or not Jessica and I would end up together again, I knew that I had the power to choose my own happiness, and that was a lesson worth holding on to.